Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Current Issues Show on TrueChat, broadcasting from Studio 2A in Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm Justin T. Weller.
I'm Cam Pierce.
And I'm Zaid Nobby.
As always, thank you very much for tuning in to today's show. We've got an important topic here, gentlemen, and I am excited to get underway. As you guys have seen, Zaid is obviously our new, possibly permanent, maybe, member of the show, but he's guesting with us today. We're going to see how it goes. So if you hate him, let us know. And if you love him, let Camden know.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
That's how this works.
Compliments go directly to my Twitter. That's just how that works.
So
even when they don't have to do about me.
But without further ado, fake news has been a topic that we've discussed, I think, once or twice, kind of in a context of other things going on, not in a direct, fake news-oriented thing. But an article caught my attention today in the New York Times. Here's the quick overview. A 28-year-old father of two arrived at a pizzeria with an AR-15 rifle to stop a sex ring that didn't exist. All of this was because of a fake news article. So, Camden, what's your initial reaction to this? And does it seem feasible that someone would actually show up to a pizzeria with an AR-15 because of a fake news article?
Now, and this guy probably got it off of, Facebook. I think it does say that in the article that he saw it on Facebook. I mean, obviously, he's being charged with felonious assault with a deadly weapon. I believe, 4 felony counts is what he's being charged with. So he's not in a good spot right now. I doubt he's going to be giving a lot of his, comments to the media. But my initial reaction to this is, this is where fake news goes too far. I mean, the headline of this article was, I believe it's Ping Pong Pizzeria. No, of the fake news article, I'm sorry, is, Ping Pong Pizzeria has a sex ring that is supported by Hillary Clinton. I think it's one of the headlines here. So it to us, it feels obviously fake, but when someone just sees it scrolling through their Facebook feed or, Twitter feed or something like that, and it has hundreds of thousands of people sharing it, or even thousands of people sharing it, that gives it legitimacy, which it shouldn't have, in my opinion, just from the headline. But this stuff is going to happen as long as we, allow fake news to be out there. And I'm not going against fake news being out there, because I think you step on some lines there of censorship. But
we'll get to that later.
Yeah, we will get to that later as well. But that is what some people are calling for after this. But hey, you've got to be smart enough to know what you're reading. And I think this, 28-year-old father kind of saw a headline that, triggered him a little bit with his own kids, thinking about what, these kids could be going through in this pizzeria. There was a couple of, very circumstantial evidence, points to this article that he read and probably was like, okay, I'm down. I'm going to get this thing done. And it's tough to feel, I feel bad for the guy, but you've got to do more research than that than just one article, especially if you're going to go in guns blazing with an AR-15.
Right. That's probably the thing to me that got about it most. Is like, even if I saw the headline of the New York Times that said this, I don't know if I would show up someplace with an AR-15 to stop it myself.
Right.
I would feel like if it was real, the authorities would probably, be taking care of it. But that gets into something we're going to discuss later, which is about the perpetual nature of articles like this, and then how new articles come up and people don't want to believe the facts that are presented. But before we get to that, I want to ask Zaid the same question. Based off of, you both have read the article, and based off of this, quick summary here, the 28-year-old father arriving with an AR-15 at a pizzeria because of a news article about a sex ring that didn't exist. Does this seem just totally outlandish, or do you see the purpose behind this and why somebody would do something like that?
As Camden put, it is a very bizarre story that I have read. And the first thing that came to my mind was, why is someone trying to be a Batman? It's really bizarre he would go out of his way to drive that 6 hours to go to this pizzeria and try and solve the situation himself.
Right.
Another thing that came to my mind was, where does the line between fact and value take place when it comes to a situation like this? Because when it comes to reading these fake articles and someone decides that he feels that he needs to take it in his own hands because he has kids of his own, that's a very emotional setting he has in his mind.
Mm-hmm.
And that's initially the main reason why he went to the pizzeria in the first place, to try and handle the situation himself. There was no rationality when it came to this. And when we start to see these fake news articles, where does the line between passion and ration divide up what we should believe and not believe in?
So basically, let me see if I'm understanding you right. The first thing that came to mind is not so much fake news. It's, even if this was real, this guy was willing to drive 6 hours to go to a pizzeria that he'd probably never been to stop a sex ring that he wasn't sure existed because he has kids and wanted to take it into his own hands.
Exactly.
And I guess that's where having some people on the show that aren't Cam and myself, I think, is useful, because our mind goes to the fake news thing and everybody else goes to, why is this guy doing this anyway?
Vigilantism.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's being a vigilante, which the passion behind it makes sense because he has kids. And I mean, I don't think anybody would want this to happen. Obviously, if it was actually happening, we'd want to stop it. But just the fact that to drive that far, like, it's not like it was around the corner.
You had to think about this for 6 hours.
Right.
I mean, this
you had to like prepare to go.
Yeah.
Right, stop this pizzeria, sex ring that apparently nobody else was taking care of.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I guess that speaks to the larger issue as a whole, just being really interesting that you bring up the, passion versus rationale thing. Of one of the arguments against fake news is that we ought to stop things that aren't factually based. But this guy didn't act on fact anyway. It didn't have anything to do with whether or not the article was accurate. It had everything to do with how it made him feel. So would it have changed if it was real? And the answer is, I mean, he thought it was real. So obviously no, he would have done the same thing if it was real. So that's maybe a whole separate issue about this particular guy. But what do you got, Cam?
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing when it comes to fake news, because their whole purpose is to get clicks, to get people to go to their website, is you're going to use those buzzwords, those trigger words. Put Hillary Clinton in the headline, people are going to click on it, people are going to share it. And especially if you're accusing her of having some support of a sex ring, which is obviously fake to a lot of people, but some people will jump on that. I don't think maybe it's time for not necessarily prevention of fake news being brought out to the public, but some sort of awareness campaign of, hey, not everything you read on the internet is real. I thought, didn't we learn that as kids? I mean, we're all sitting in here with a room of millennials. Even our producer back there is a millennial. I'm telling you what, my parents wouldn't let me buy things on eBay when the internet first started. Like,
watch out for scams.
Yeah, watch out for scams. Like, I wanted to buy like some sort of action figure or something on eBay, and my mom wouldn't let me get it because they didn't trust anybody on the internet. Now I tell you what, and Mom, I love you, but they put out birthdays and really serious information on Facebook, and people have just decided now the internet's just this great place, and you can just do whatever you want.
How did that happen?
I don't understand.
We went from everybody being super protective about it to people that just get scammed out of nowhere by things like this. Because I mean, that's what this is a scam. It's let's create something fake that'll get people to pay attention so that we make money off of the advertising, or just to create chaos, which of course is probably worse even than just making money off of people's stupidity.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're creating a serious issue right off of something that could be very serious. I mean, thankfully nobody was injured, and nothing. This ended peacefully, but it certainly might not have if he didn't like the answers given, if he wasn't satisfied with what he found. I mean, who knows? You got a guy armed with an AR-15 assault rifle. It could have ended obviously very poorly.
I mean, he fired shots.
Yeah, I mean, he fired the weapon. It's not like he just showed up with the weapon and left it in his car. I mean, he actually fired shots. So with that, I want to provide just a little bit more context, and then we're going to get into some, basically what could we actually do about this? Because the larger issue here is fake news. Obviously, this is a particular instance, but we want to talk about how do we address other situations like this? Because obviously we prefer that these not be perpetuated. We don't want people showing up with AR-15s at pizzerias across the nation. That would probably not be a good situation. So this guy's name is Edgar Welch, a 28-year-old father of two from North Carolina, and he recently read that the Comet Ping Pong, a pizza restaurant in Northwest Washington, was harboring young children as sex slaves and part of a child abuse ring led by Hillary Clinton. The article makes those allegations, or making the allegations, were widespread across the web, as Cam pointed out, including sites like Facebook and Twitter that carried these, which is part of what we're going to talk about here in a minute. And it led to a number of other things, like a YouTube step-by-step takedown of the New York Times article debunking this, which received over 250,000 views. I mean, you're not talking now about like one vigilante with an AR-15. You're talking about 250,000 people who are watching an article basically take down the New York Times for telling everybody that this article's wrong. You know, I mean, this is a perpetuating cycle of, you know, basically craziness. And we're going to get into, is there a way to stop it, and what makes sense without infringing on people's rights, or is it so serious that it's worth the infringement, which is the debate that we usually face with government oversight unless you're a socialist. So not to diminish socialism at all, but we actually had a socialist on the network for quite some time. So that's, you know, nothing wrong with socialists, but I don't know if we have any socialists on this show. So I know that two of us aren't. Well, I guess we'll find out.
We shall find out
with the other one. But before we continue, I wanted to take a brief moment and remind you that new episodes of the Current Issues Show are available on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday by 6 p.m. Eastern Time. What's our show of the week, Cam?
Our show of the week is the TrueChat Show.
Oh, well, the best show on the network by far and away. The TrueChat Show. If you need a break from all this serious talk about fake news and AR-15s and pizzerias, you can tune into the TrueChat Show, which is available on Wednesdays by 6 p.m. Eastern Time. That's our entertainment show where we have a pretty good time, Camden and myself, talking about anything that comes to mind. Viewer discretion is advised for that show. Kathy Burr will be joining Camden and myself tomorrow.
The return.
Yes, the return of Kathy Burr. She's back from vacation, so make sure to tune in because you'll definitely want to catch a new episode of that show. And before we continue, we're going to go over to Cam now with the intense close-up to give us TrueChat's honest-to-God mission.
TrueChat will be the mortal enemy of speculation, innuendo, and stagnation. We will champion informed opinions and fresh ideas. TrueChat will prove that the media can be trusted, relied on, and responsible. We won't join the media elite because we're setting a new standard, a higher standard, the TrueChat standard.
And in keeping in line with the TrueChat standard, I wanted to take a moment and remind you that if you have any ethical concerns with today's show, you should email ethics@truechat.org. That's ethics@truechat.org. All positive comments can go directly to @CamdenRPierce on Twitter, or if you'd prefer to make sure that we all see them, send them to info@truechat.org. And on that note, we're going to turn our attention to social media's role in this entire endeavor. Zaid and I have talked before and already established that he is an avid social media user, has a Facebook account, kind of uses it, doesn't have a Twitter account anymore, uses the Instagram quite frequently though. But I want to get to, generally speaking, all of these social medias allow you, all major social medias, let you post whatever you want, true or not, as long as it's in line with their community standards. Is this a policy that these organizations should maintain, or is it one that they should change in light of fake news?
To be honest, I think it's one that they don't need to change at all, because one thing we have to keep in mind is we're talking about social media. Anyone can use it. Anyone can post anything they want. This isn't the New York Times. This isn't Al Jazeera. This isn't a major news source that we typically see being posted in regards to everyday issues. So when it comes to it being social media, I can post something like Donald Trump just got shot. People might believe me, people might not. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. It all comes down to who's posting what and who's educated enough to understand and go further in depth into searching for other news articles that they can possibly find in regards to what these people are saying.
So, in other words, if you post Donald Trump's been shot, you don't think that Instagram should take that down?
Not necessarily. I don't think it's ethical of me to do that, and I certainly wouldn't do that.
But it's not Instagram's job to get rid of it.
No.
It's your job not to post it.
Yes.
So even though it's out there, and other people are now going to make assumptions off of that,
Exactly.
it's
yes.
their responsibility to check it. And
Exactly.
it's not Instagram's responsibility to
Right.
tailor it. Okay, I'm just clarifying. Don't mistake my clarification as agreement with you, because I happen to strongly disagree. But in the interest of time, because I probably have to tear Camden apart more than you, we are going to transition to our next segment, which is tied closely to social media because it has to do with potentially the regulation of social media. So Cam's going to have a very similar question, but we know if you happen to tune into this show, we know that Cam, generally speaking, wants the government to stay the heck out of his life. He wants to do his thing, wants to stay comfy, wants to live life. That's about the situation. Government, leave me alone. But does that mean that ultimately these sources or any source should be allowed to distribute fake news?
And, well, yes, I think so. I don't think there should be any government regulation on fake news, because you start down that slippery slope, then you possibly have a breach of rights when it comes to other news organizations that may report something that they may not have all the facts to. Heck, we could even look at the reporting of this presidential election, for example. No one knew that a lot of these news sources were just flat out wrong about how middle America and a lot of rural America was feeling about how this country has gone and how Obama's policies had helped or not helped them respectively. You could even go as far as to say that was barging on fake news, or barging on news that didn't have enough facts or enough, fact checking that could have been there. So I think it's a slippery slope, and it's a hard place to draw a line in the sand on.
So same thing's true on social media. The post is the gun, the information in it is the bullet, and pressing send is like pulling the trigger. It's really, people don't want to draw that conclusion, but it can be just that volatile. Somebody in real life showed up with an AR-15 because of a Facebook post. That's about as real as actually holding an AR-15 in a pizzeria and shooting a gun.
And that's on him. That's not on the poster of this fake news article.
So it's not on the person, not that instance, but somebody distributed that information knowing that it was fake. They chose to do something
because of the system that we currently have, which is pay for clicks.
But why does it hurt for an organization to stop false information that can clearly be dangerous? And we're not going to get to answering that question because it is about time to wrap up.
Sadly, I already
have.
So
we are going to leave that to it's a slippery slope, but we don't know what that means. And as always, we're leaving it to you to decide what you think about the issue, because that's what we do here on the TrueChat Network and the Current Issues Show. So, for the Current Issues Show on TrueChat Broadcasting from Studio 2A in Cincinnati, Ohio, I'm Justin T. Weller.
I'm Cam Pierce.
And I'm Zayd Nabi.
As always, thank you very much for tuning in, and we will see you next time on the Current Issues Show. Be the change.